Good evening and welcome. Thank you for attending the regular council meeting of Monday, October 2nd of 2023, in person and online. I'd like to remind everyone that this council meeting is recorded, and also videotaped. Those who will be coming to the question period at the microphone, just also be aware that you are being recorded. So here we are in a beautiful month of October with beautiful weather, very fortunate. Oktoberfest is well on its way. There will be also a Terry Fox run this Friday at the Westwood Senior Campus. Also on Saturday, the Scouts will be cleaning up Sandy Beach. And the Hudson Artists Association are holding an event on October 20th here at the Community Center, as well as Story Fest will be taking place from October 15th to November 27th, with their first event here on Sunday, October 15th at 2 p.m. at the Community Center. So they will be receiving Kathy Reichs, who is a well-known author, and over the past 22 years, Storyfest has welcomed more than 150 Canadian, along with some dual citizen authors of all genres, including Lawrence Hill, Anne-Marie MacDonald, Rory Hay, Margaret Atwood, Ian Hamilton, and more recently, Eliza Reid, the Canadian-born First Lady of Iceland, who spoke on her book, Secrets of Sprakar, Iceland's Extraordinary Women and How They Are Changing the World. Also, if you've been browsing our town's website, you will know that branch collection begins on October 16th. You must register before 4 p.m. on October 10th. And also, the flushing of the Aqueduct Network is taking place this week in the Alston Vale and Hudson Valleys area. The Great Escape is taking place on Wednesday, October 11th between 6 and 8 p.m. This is when the fire department circulates through the streets of Hudson to remind residents to change their batteries in your fire alarms and smoke detectors. Also, as most who take the train on a regular basis will know that the train is currently being replaced by, or temporarily replaced by, a bus service until the end of the week, so until October 6th, as EXO is replacing a culvert at Montecadieux in Vaudreuil-Dorion. Also, with regards to our progress on the RCI, on the protection of natural areas, next month at the regular November Council meeting, we will be adopting the notice of motion and first draft. There will be a public presentation and consultation of this changes to the bylaws, which will be taking place on the third week of November. And if all continues to go well, at the regular council meeting in December, we will be adopting the changes to the bylaws to integrate this RCI. So again, with or without changes according to the comments and additional details that we may be receiving at the public consultation meeting. So just as a reminder, even though that the bylaws would be adopted in December, there is a 120-day period for the MRC, so this is the regional board, to review for conformity to their regional master plan. So this means that those changes to the bylaws, so urban planning bylaws, would only become in effect in the spring of 2024. Also, this evening on the agenda, we will be presenting a resolution on the Legion's agreement with the town, or the town's agreement with the Legion. This has been a project in the works for the past year on our end, and I'm glad to see both present president and recent president in the room of the Legion, so thank you for being here this evening. And there are about 10 to 12 people in the room, but I must admit that 3 of them belong to my family, so that probably reduces the numbers. Online, there are 10 in attendance, so this is a reasonably peaceful and reasonably attended meeting. With regards to public consultations, on September 19th, there was a public consultation here on our proposed change to the bylaw, the zoning bylaw, on allowing exterior fires in front of commercial establishments in commercial zones. There were 3 people who came and presented their comments with regards to quality of air surrounding wood-burning fires and asking that Council take this into consideration. So you will see the resolution on this. It is actually a bylaw adoption in this case, where we have tweaked the bylaw, and I will explain that when we come to it. Otherwise, I believe that we are starting our 5th month with Marie-Jacinthe Roberge, so she is our Assistant Director General, en voie de devenir notre directrice générale si tout continue d'aller bien. So in December, if all continues to go well, she will be formally received as our permanent Director General. And next to her is Susan McKercher, who has worked for the town at least once before in replacement of our permanent greffe, so town clerk, who is away on maternity leave. There are, of course, other points of interest where the Hudson Arts and Culture Council continue to be working on presenting the survey results of the cultural offerings that was delivered to all houses and also available online. So they continue to work on this. This was the survey where we'd received 437 responses, which is a nice capture of positions within Hudson, but also people who come to Hudson to enjoy the cultural offerings. Also, with regards to the Culture Policy Committee, so the first meeting took place in June. We've had to reschedule the second meeting, and at this time we are anticipating that the second meeting will take place on Friday, October 27th. So an invitation or a request to fill in the best time periods has been sent out to all of the members, and this again will be held here at the community center. With regards to meetings with the mayor, these continue to take place every month. This month it will be next Saturday, and there will be a time change, so instead of it being in the morning, it will take place in the afternoon starting at 1:30 p.m. until 3:30 p.m. This being because of the Scouts being here at lunch. I would like to be serving them lunch, and part of that experience, therefore, we've offset the meeting with the mayor. I have also started monthly meetings with merchants, which are interesting. So the first one took place on September 15th. There was a decent attendance. 3 councillors attended. I think in all we were around 20 people, but it gives us a chance to exchange on how their season is going, how the town can better support the efforts of the commercial core, but also to share with them some irritants that may be coming in from the residential areas, but also looking to collaborate on some projects. Otherwise, I believe that Benoit also held a district meeting this past month, and it was well attended. I believe it was 30 people, 32. And I believe that the main topic of conversation was the situation, the circulation situation at Mount Pleasant around the elementary school. So you'll see a resolution where some of those measures are being introduced. So that will be a continued work in progress. This is really a first step, first phase, and we will continue to tweak that according to the results. So this basically covers it. We're ready to move on to, is that short enough? Wait, vas-y. Yep.
The first thing, I received an email today regarding the fact that the dogs are back on Sandy Beach and some are still off leash. So it's just to remind people that the provincial law does apply. Dogs have to be on leash. I was part in a discussion this morning for a fraud, and not with me, but with some family member. So it's just to remember you that there's 2 meetings. One in French will be held this week, and one will be held, I think, the 18th about fraud is given by the SQ. And I think it's interesting for everybody of every age to go and listen to those, because you could be impacted as a teenager, you could be impacted as a person like me where it's my parents, or you could be impacted as the parents. So I hope I will see you there in French this week and in English.
Are these meetings here?
Sorry?
Are they here downstairs?
They are here at 7 o'clock.
Downstairs or in the main
Upstairs.
floor? Upstairs, 7 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. So I believe the details are also on the town's website?
Yes.
Yes.
And I did ask my better half to post it because I don't know how on Vicinity, another webpage related to our neighbor to attract more Francophone.
All right, so please pass along the message.
And I will have a District 2 meeting. The date is not set up yet.
Another one in October?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So as you've heard, there will be a presentation by the SQ on fraud and how it affects you or your neighbors and your friends and your family. It will be taking place here at the community center. The date was anyway, it's on the town's website, and the following week will be in English.
I
correct?
think it's the 18th, and I will look.
Okay.
I think it's this Wednesday and the 18th.
So both Wednesdays.
So Wednesday, October 4th, and October 18 in English.
All right, great. Thank you. Anyone else? No? No. All right, so moving on with the adoption of the agenda. While the assembly is held in person, the public has the choice of participating in person or via teleconference during question periods. So I will need a mover and a seconder with regards to that the agenda of the regular council meeting of October 2nd, 2023 be and is hereby adopted as submitted. So Benoit Blais, seconded by Peter Mate. I'm getting my orders together. En français.
Alors, la présente résolution vise à adopter l'ordre du jour de la séance ordinaire du Conseil du 2 octobre 2023, que ce soit adopté tel que soumis.
Merci beaucoup. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Moving on to Section 2, confirmation of minutes. Item 2.1, so confirmations of last month's minutes of September 5th of 2023. This resolution is that the minutes of council meeting held on September 5th of 2023 be and are hereby approved as submitted. En français.
Alors, l'adoption du procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du 5 septembre 2023. La présente résolution vise à ce que le procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du 5 septembre 2023 soit approuvé par les présentes tel que soumis.
Proposer Reed Thompson, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. So first question period is open. I will go back and forth between the room and online. So if you'd like to move to the microphone and just give me your name. You don't have to tell me where you live. Just confirm you're a Hudson resident. That will work for me.
My name is Zach.
Are you a Hudson resident?
I am.
Perfect. In your name?
Zachary.
Zachary.
Zach.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me. So I just had an issue I wanted to raise with you. I had sent an email back in May of this year about a safety concern that we had in front of our house. And it also raised another issue that I think is much larger, so I just wanted to address the two of them. One, we live at 185 Main, so we built a new house down on Main. I guess there's the Ellerbeck residence, and then it's...
You're right on the bend. And
right over that bend,
yeah.
Correct,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And that bend is very dangerous. So when we were building the house, the builders and we all noticed that it creates like a dead zone. It's a very, very, very dangerous blind spot because people are coming over that bend and can't see what's going on over the bend. So when people were pulling out of the driveway, whether it be the builders or ourselves or anybody for that matter that was visiting, you know, they literally had to pray to God that nobody was zooming over that bend. And we all had ourselves, the builders.
We're just looking at each other because of the sound.
Oh, no worries. Don't worry about it. It's all good. We all had close calls. And we were all very, very, very concerned with the safety of ourselves, of now our newborn child, obviously the builder who was there at the time, who's not there anymore, but and anybody visiting. So, you know, we sent you an email, and I even touched base with an expert, you know, who would have been willing and would still be willing to come and do an analysis of the situation and make recommendations. But anyways, Ariane wrote back to Marianne Racine, and she said, listen, j'accuse réception, and we're going to be looking into this. So I see that there are some elements on the proposed agenda today that address, you know, speed reduction measures on Main and the installation of a restricted visibility sign. I don't know what those elements are. I hope that they're addressing.
Your file is item 8.3, and I'm looking at the two from the Circulation Committee.
Fantastic. That's awesome. So I'm not gonna beat the dead horse, so to speak, more than I need to. But just to the second point, I think the broader thing, you know, the broader, more overarching point that I wanted to raise was the fact that just Main Road is just it's a racetrack. It's like a racetrack. And it's funny because, like, I never thought I'd be that guy who's like, it's a racetrack, slow down, you young kids, you know? But I'm that guy now. Like, it's crazy how kids are just zooming down the street and there's just like no regard whatsoever for speed.
Speeding has been an issue throughout the town, which is why this circulation
it's like
come on board.
So bad. And the speed limit's 40 kilometers an hour. And I know, like, again, you guys have probably heard this so many times. And again, I'm sorry for beating a dead horse on this, but like, it's crazy. People are not doing 40 kilometers an hour. They're not doing 50. They're not doing 60. They're not doing 70. There's some people doing 100. 110, 120. I'm literally having to go out onto the street and slow people down and being like, you guys are going to kill somebody. And so all I'm saying is that, like, I don't think it's a question of if, I think it's a question of, like, when somebody gets really hurt. So I just think, and respectfully, I say this respectfully, I know you guys are all trying to do the best that you can, and we're all trying to do the best that we can, but I do think that Main Road needs, it's not the Main Road it was from 30 years ago, it's the Main Road that it is today, and Hudson's becoming more and more popular, and there's more and more people that are using the road, and I just think that the safety measures need to be updated to take into consideration the modern day usage of it. And I know that it might disrupt the beauty of the road. I know these signs can sometimes be visual pollutants, and we don't like seeing these speed signs, but, like, something's got to give it at a certain point. That's my take on things.
No,
I'm just a resident, but
has long time suffered of a lot of speeding. Côte St. Charles. Now that Main Road surface has been redone, obviously it's
and the kids love it. The kids love it.
Exactly. But I think the advantage of having the Circulation Committee is that the SQ is at the table at this Circulation Committee, so they hear of the issues that we have, and their presence is also much has been heightened, and we're able to give them exactly where the areas of concern and the elements that need their attention. And they've been very responsive and have been very present. I'm looking at Marie-Jacinthe because she works with them a lot. But did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I guess just in general, like, the SQ is aware of the speeding issues that are going on, not just on Main, but across the town. And they are, you may have noticed that there's been an increased presence over the last couple of months, and they're going to continue to do that. I think over the summer we see a lot more speeding when the ferries open because we get a lot more visitors in town, and the police are going to be ramping up their operations probably much more heavily next year in the terms of roadblocks and stuff like that, and awareness campaigns for non-residents because that's generally where the issue is coming from. And in terms of issues that are taking place in the town, there's already stuff that's going on in terms of police operations to crack down on that as well. It's not, speed bumps are not very viable for Main just because of the amount of traffic that we get along it. It's considered a transit artery, so we can't restrict Main Road with speed bumps. Yeah, we can look into something like that for sure.
All right, you're welcome. Yep. Is there any question online? No, please come. It's good. Oh, I see a hand just came up, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Tu le vois? Tu vas laisser parler la personne? Heg Chamorian, you have, you're welcome to speak and ask your question.
It's ready.
It's ready. So, Mr. Haig, if you wanted to ask your question, please go ahead. Your hand is up, so if you'd like to speak, you can. No, the hand just went down, so sorry. Please go.
My first council meeting since George Zamfir wanted to build his...
It's been a while.
It's been a while, but this is important to me, and I'd just like to echo what Zach was talking about. He stole my thunder. I had to...
Oh.
He stole my thunder.
No, add to his thunder. Go.
Yeah, the same thing. I mean, I've had so many bad experiences on Côte St. Charles being passed, you know, driving on Côte St. Charles, and I find the traffic and the speeding, and my daughter, she just turned 26 today, and she's afraid to drive in Hudson. You know, she's been flipped the bird by people not stopping at stop signs when she stopped at a stop sign, and just such a disregard for just basic rules of the road. And I find it's not just drivers, it's pedestrians who cross on that invisible, magical crosswalk from the liquor store to the parking lot. It's kids coming out of the high school on scooters. It's cyclists who just, you know, cross Main Road without signaling or stopping at a corner. There just seems to be a general disregard for, you know, for common sense and safe driving practices. It's, you know, it's unnerving. And it's also scary to be a pedestrian, I must say. I live on Birch Hill, and walking from, I have a client who lives on Côte St. Charles, and I like to walk once in a while. There's no place to walk. You know, Côte St. Charles, there's a little bit of sidewalk. To get to my house, there's no sidewalk. The small shoulders on either side of the road are rutted, and you know, the asphalt is breaking apart. The way the cars are speeding, it's terrifying. You know, you have to walk on everybody's lawn, and you're looking behind you, and cars are coming at you. It's just, Hudson is not pedestrian friendly anymore unless you're in the village. You know, then you have the sidewalks and you have the crosswalks. Outside of the village, not so much. And my client is directly across from the high school, and echoing Zach again, this afternoon, I don't know who it was, apologies if you're the owner of the car. It was some green Maserati, Lamborghini, Ferrari, I don't know who owns it. They came out of the parking lot, and I don't know if it was a student driving, a parent driving, they came out of the high school parking lot. I thought it was a jet engine, like a jet landing in the middle of Côte St. Charles. And that car peeled out of the parking lot right in front of a group of students. The buses were picking up the students, flying down Côte St. Charles towards Main Road, as loud as you can imagine. Just like in a school zone. I'm at a loss to explain where people are in their minds these days. And with all the new condos going up and the new houses, and there's just going to be more traffic, I don't know if there's any long-term solution or plan or anything. You know, it's just, I feel it's very risky to walk around Hudson these days.
I think that we're certainly working towards having a plan directeur, a master plan of trails, green spaces, and parks, and I think that the trail system is certainly one way to get from one neighborhood to the other. You know, there's some shortcuts, but that's still when you're in the urban area. When you're coming from Birch Hill, it's, you know, you can get to the golf course, but otherwise you're pretty much stuck with using that really narrow strip. But
and I don't want to do that in the winter or at night if you have to walk. I remember I had to walk to the IGA once at night, and I had a flashlight, and I'm like shining it on the ground because I know there are these potholes on the shoulder, you know, walking along along Main Road.
But I have to say that I do remember cycling when I was 10, so several decades ago, and it was also narrow shoulders, and you know, when people drive really close, it is scary. They're supposed to be respecting 1.5 meters apart, you know, away from someone who's on a bicycle, and ideally someone who's on foot. But as an immediate answer, I don't have one. I think that cars are part of, unfortunately, our lives and what we do. I think the Circulation Committee is certainly there to hear of the hot spots and to address those as they come up. I think that if there's any particular recommendations to make, you know that you have two councillors here who certainly are receptive to these comments or suggestions, and we'll review them with our Director of Public Works, with the SQ, and also see the operationability of these solutions, because sometimes, as Reid was just explaining, to put speed bumps on our main arteries will then generate other issues such as access in terms of security for fire, safety. So that's not necessarily where those are used. Something that we're definitely looking at in the area of the School of Mount Pleasant is that is being used as a shortcut. So would there be a long-term solution there in terms of a redesign to put in some permanent obstacles or slowing down measures? That's something we'll have to think about, but that comes with a certain amount of investment as well, and redesign of those streets. And any redesign of a street is 2 to 3 to 5 years ahead. I mean, just look at Lakeview, a project that was started before we arrived, and it's basically hasn't lifted yet. So
okay, well, I'll make a specific recommendation. The part like along on Main Road, like from between Birch Hill and Côte St. Charles, that the side, I don't know, I call it a sidewalk. It's not a sidewalk, whatever it is. I mean, there are holes in it. There are holes. I mean, it's dangerous to walk there. As I said, you know, you take a flashlight, somebody's going to break their ankle in those holes. It's just the
paved shoulder.
Yeah,
the paved shoulder. Yeah, okay.
I mean, it's not, you know, I hesitate to call it a shoulder because it's certainly not big enough for a car, but even to walk on that, like around the hydro poles and that, there's huge chunks of asphalt missing, it's loose.
I see Marie-Jacint's taking notes.
Sure,
so
yeah, I mean, that's a concern. And I'll end it on this. I understand your traffic calming measures in the village, those cement things that come out. But the plants you have there, some of them are good. Some of those grasses they grow so tall, they obscure the view. Like when you're driving, like whether it's in front of the Medi Center or in front of the IGA, the grasses you have growing in there in the center, they're so high. I mean, I consider myself a good driver. I'm a driver and a pedestrian, and I do go slow in the village. I don't speed, and I'm always aware of that. But there are people who don't slow down. And my fear is that some child on a tricycle will come out and the view, you don't have a clear view of the drives to the IJ, from the IJ in front of the Medi Center. The grasses that grow, and it's kind of ironic because you just passed a bylaw about not having tall grass on your property that's hazardous, but every time I drive down Main Road, it's like, man, I can't see past that grass. And I'm driving slowly, but some little kid on a tricycle, a dog, a cat, you just don't have a clear view.
So we have received those questions, and I believe you sent them today. And I believe that the Public Works Department will be looking into making recommendations on changing those. Obviously, it's something that is specific to this time of year as those grasses get taller. Some don't get as tall, so maybe it's switching out a few of those grasses.
For sure,
I think your point is well received. And with regards to adding or patching the holes along that paved shoulder along Main Road between Birch Hill and Côte St. Charles, that also makes plenty of sense. And with regards to the third question, which you had on your email today.
That was answered by Ian.
Okay,
Dalgarno.
perfect. Yeah, so it's a culvert work that was delayed, but they are working on it.
Okay, great.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's great. Thank you for coming. So there are no questions online, so please come to the microphone.
My name is Bernard Zuckman.
Hello, Bernard.
I'm not going to talk about traffic.
Oh.
Okay. But I'd like to represent the Hudson Chamber Music Series. And in the calendar for October 15th, which is 2 weeks from yesterday, we have a tremendous, fabulous violist coming, and a pianist, both of whom are just terrific in what they do. But the question I would like to ask is started a year ago. I had an email from Lori about applying for let's say, financial support from the town.
Sure.
I haven't seen anything on the website that says this has to be done every year.
Typically,
it was at the end of
we receive
October.
them every year. We receive the requests as we're preparing for the budget of 2024. Typically, it's before the end of October would be an ideal time. There is information, but it's buried on our town's website.
There's a form to fill out, but
yes.
it hasn't changed since last year. There's nothing saying it's valid for the next calendar year. That's all I'm asking.
Well, if the information is the same from one year to the next, then just resubmit the one you either filled out last year or just say, I'd like to repeat my ask from last year for the following
That's
year.
fine. That's all.
Thank you very much, Bernard. Are there any other questions? No. All right, so moving on with section 3. Urban planning and environment. So do you want to read them or do you want me to read them? I actually chaired the TPAC meetings last month as Peter was away for business. So it just gives me a break when he reads them, but I'm happy to read them as well as you want, if you want. You want me to do it? Okay. So item 3.1, this is 357 Main for SPAPE, a new detached single-family construction, where a permit request was received for a new detached single-family construction at 357 Main. So this is the corner of Como Gardens and Main. This is the second time this project has come to the table. Whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee unanimously recommended to approve the SPAPE in support of the permit request. This resolution is therefore to approve the SPAPE of the permit request at that location. En français.
Alors, point 3, urbanisme et environnement. 3.1, 357 Main, le PIA, nouvelle construction unifamiliale isolée. Une demande de permis a été reçue pour une nouvelle construction unifamiliale isolée au 357 Main, qui est le coin Como Garden et Main. La recommandation unanime du comité consultatif d'urbanisme est d'approuver le PIA relatif à la demande de permis. Alors, la présente résolution vise à approuver le PIA relatif à la demande de permis pour le 357 rue Main.
Merci. Do we have a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Peter Mate. If there's any objection to this resolution, please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.2, 472 Main for a SPAPE sign, whereas a certificate of authorization request was received for a sign at 472 Main. Whereas the Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to approve the SPAPE, this resolution is therefore to approve the SPAPE of the certificate of authorization request at that location. En français.
Point 3.2, le 472 Main, un PIA pour une enseigne. Une demande de certificat d'autorisation a été reçue pour une enseigne au 472 rue Main. La recommandation unanime du comité consultatif d'urbanisme est d'approuver le PIA. Alors, la présente résolution vise à approuver le PIA relatif à la demande de certificat d'autorisation pour le 472 rue Main.
Merci. So this is the sign of Le Corbeau et le Renard next to Aux Fleurs, and it is in the same location as the previous Commerce's sign. So is it proposed by Darren Legault and seconded by Reed Thompson? Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.3, 67 Cameron, SPAPE sign. Whereas a certificate of authorization request was received for a sign at that address, the Town Planning Advisory Committee's unanimous recommendation to refuse the SPAPE. And this resolution, therefore, is to refuse the SPAPE of the certificate of authorization request at that location. This is for the Alm store on the east side of Cameron, and that's about as much as I can give. En français?
Alors, le 3.3, le 67 Cameron, le PIA enseigne. Alors, une demande de certificat d'autorisation a été reçue pour une enseigne au 67 Cameron. La recommandation unanime du comité consultatif d'urbanisme est de refuser le PIA. Les critères qui ont été non remplis, alors c'est d'assurer que l'enseigne respecte les caractéristiques architecturales du bâtiment et de privilégier que l'enseigne vise des matériaux, une forme et des couleurs qui s'harmonisent à la façade du bâtiment. Alors, la présente résolution est de refuser le PIA relatif à la demande de certificat d'autorisation pour le 67 Cameron. C'est bien ça?
Merci. Donc, the part I forgot in English were the criteria for the refusal. So in English, these are to ensure that the sign respects the architectural characteristics, and also that the criteria to be met is to favor that the sign's use of materials, shapes, and colors that harmonize with the building's facade. So for the refusal, I will need a mover, Reed Thompson, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. So we need a recorded vote. So starting with District 1, how do you vote?
I'm against.
You support the refusal, or you...
Yeah, we have trouble with this.
Yeah.
I'm
Against the refusal.
Yes.
I'm against the refusal, correct.
Okay. District 2?
Same.
You're against the refusal. Peter Mate?
For.
Supports the refusal. Reed Thompson?
Supports the refusal.
And Darren?
Supports.
So it is a vote of 2 against 5, or 2 to 3. 2 against and 3 for.
Yeah, is it possible to say why?
Of course.
So I respect the TPAC decision based on the file presented to them, but I refuse to agree with their decision to reject the sign application presented to TPAC. My decision is based on the following fact, that the file has been dragging for more than 2 months based on the lack of communication between the town and the store owner. It could have been fixed with a 30-minute phone call. And in my mind, the bylaw for signage is not clear and doesn't provide clear guidance and clarity. That's why my vote is that way.
Doug, did you want to add something?
No, I'm just, no.
All right. C'est bon?
Oui. Donc, c'est un vote
So obviously this was a difficult
enregistré.
file.
Hein?
Oui, c'est un vote enregistré. Donc 2 contre le refus et 3 pour le refus. Donc il est soutenu par majorité.
Oui, adopté à la majorité.
C'est bon? So obviously this was a difficult file. There were dimensions on the original document where there was a confusion with regards to the proportions that were shown on the image. So between the dimensions and the image, if one were to extrapolate, it didn't come out right. So it knew that if the sign was built according to the dimensions, the sign would probably not look as presented. And as Benoit mentioned, there were also some issues, but it's not the first time that we've had issues, where, as you know, we are short-staffed in our urban planning department, and we've had to resort to external consultants to help with the permitting process. And in this case, this file was handled by one of the consultants who only works for the town 1 day a week, and so that created extra delays. And also there may be confusion with regards to the consultant's main language is French and this person's main language is English. So between the two, there probably were slippages in understanding, and this is something that we are ardently working towards fixing as best as we can, but we can't generate magically candidates on the market, on the job market, and this continues to be a difficulty. I have been looking for ways for the bylaws to be lightened, but of course, a bylaw is there to be respected, so we can't just turn a blind eye on our bylaws. Can we suspend their application? It could create a lot of unfortunate situations where some signs that shouldn't happen and would be very disrupting to the eye would be installed in these moments. So this continues to be an issue that I'm working on. I know Marie-Jacinthe is working on it. We are not satisfied with the way that things are going, but we also know that at this time we don't have an alternate solution. So there we go. Item 3.4, contract renewal, AO 2022-29-U, organic waste collection and transportation. Whereas Resolution R 2022-12-332, awarding a contract for the organic waste collection and transport to the firm of Robert Daou et Fils on December 5th of 2022. The contract was for a duration of 1 year, which ends on December 31st of 2023. And whereas the contract provided for the possibility of a renewal for the years 2024 and 2024. 5. So this resolution is to renew the contract, the whole in accordance with the tender documents AO 2022-29-U. En français?
Alors, 3.4, renouvellement de contrat AO-2022-29-U, collecte et transport des matières organiques. La résolution R 2022-12-332 octroie un contrat pour la collecte et le transport des matières organiques à la firme Robert Daou et Fils le 5 décembre 2022. Le contrat a une durée d'1 an qui se termine le 31 décembre 2023. Le contrat prévoit la possibilité de renouvellement pour les années 2024 et 2025. Donc, la présente résolution vise à renouveler le contrat, le tout conformément au document d'appel d'offres AO-2022-29-U.
C'est bon. Reed Thompson has a question.
Yeah, quick point of clarification. Did we confirm if the renewal is for the same amount of the original contract?
No, she sent us the document.
Did we?
Yep.
Yeah, there's a 6.5 increase
Okay. Thank
between 223 and 224.
C'est bon?
Thank you.
Problem.
Do I have a mover? So Reed Thompson, seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 3.5 is simply the tabling of the minutes of the Town Planning Advisory Committee for August of 2023, where the members of council take note of the tabling of the Town Planning Advisory Committee's minutes.
Alors, le point 3.5, c'est un dépôt du procès-verbal du comité consultatif d'urbanisme pour le mois d'août 2023. Les membres du conseil prennent acte du dépôt du procès-verbal du comité consultatif d'urbanisme.
Item 3.6 is also for the tabling of a different set of reports. So this is for the monthly report for permits issued in August of 2023, where members of council take note of the tabling of the monthly report for permits issued by the Urban Planning Department. En français.
3.6, alors c'est le dépôt du rapport annuel des permis émis pour le mois d'août 2023. Les membres du conseil prennent acte du dépôt du rapport mensuel des permis émis du service de l'urbanisme.
Merci. Moving on to Section 4, Administration and Finance. Item 4.1, Approval of Disbursements for September of 2023. Whereas this resolution is to approve the following disbursements as of September 22nd of 2023 as presented, where the subtotal is $1,086,247.80, and where the total for accounts paid is $1,199,423.80. This accounts for one payroll.
Alors, la section 4, Administration et finances. 4.1, Approbation des paiements pour le mois de septembre 2023. Alors, la présente résolution vise à approuver le paiement des comptes au 22 septembre 2023 tel que présenté. Le sous-total des paiements s'élève à 1 086 247,80 $. Et le total des comptes payés à 1 199 423,80 $.
Merci. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Peter Mate, and seconded by Darren Legault. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 4.2, order to sell a movable property for non-payment of taxes of 2023. Whereas the Treasurer's statement of delinquent accounts for non-payment of taxes was tabled at the meeting last month of September 5th of 2023, whereas the town may bid on and acquire movables at the sale for non-payment of taxes, this resolution is to order the town clerk to hold a public auction of the buildings for non-payment of municipal taxes, all according to the list attached to this resolution, and that the sale be held on November 16th of 2023 at 1 p.m. in the basement here of Stephen F. Shar Community Center located at 394 Main and Hudson, to authorize the Treasurer to exclude from the sale the properties whose taxes and fees due have been paid prior to the day of the auction, and to designate the Treasurer, or failing that, the Director General, to bid on and acquire on behalf of the town one or more movables to be sold at the time of such sale, and to authorize the town clerk to sign all deeds and documents relating to this sale. So to date, we had started, I believe, with 18 addresses last month, 19? 19 last month? Le mois dernier.
Oh, le mois dernier, yeah, sorry, yeah, 19 and
19, and we're now down to 9, so we
Exactly.
continue to work hard, and there have been hand-delivered letters. We have a detailed table here as well with the communications that have taken place. There are some on the 9 where bank transfers are expected to arrive tomorrow, as today was a banking holiday. So we continue to work hard to see this list dwindle down, and unfortunately at the time of publication of this list, when it is in the newspaper, so in a few days, the names of the people linked to these properties will be seen. So again, we will continue to work very hard to bring this number down. The total to date, including interest and penalties, is $91,182.73. En français.
Alors, le point 4.2, ordonnance de vendre les immeubles pour défaut de paiement de taxes 2023. En considérant que l'état du trésorier des comptes en souffrance pour défaut de paiement de taxes a été déposé à la séance du 5 septembre 2023, considérant que la Ville peut enchérir et acquérir des immeubles lors de la vente pour défaut de paiement de taxes, la présente résolution vise à ordonner à la greffière de procéder à la tenue d'une vente à l'enchère publique des immeubles pour défaut de paiement de taxes municipales, le tout selon la liste jointe en annexe à la présente résolution qui contient 9 noms pour un montant de 91 000, j'ai pas la...
182,73 sous.
Merci. Merci. Attendez une minute, là. J'étais rendu que la vente ait lieu le 16 novembre 2023 à 13h au sous-sol du centre communautaire Stephen F. Shar, situé ici au 394 rue Main à Hudson, d'autoriser le greffier à exclure de la vente les immeubles dont les taxes et frais dus auront été payés avant le jour de l'adjudication, soit avant le 16 novembre, de désigner le trésorier ou à défaut le directeur général, la directrice générale, pour enchérir et acquérir au nom de la Ville un ou des immeubles à être vendus lors de cette vente et d'autoriser la greffière à signer tous les actes et documents relatifs à cette vente.
Merci. Vous aviez dit le greffier, mais c'est le trésorier à exclure de la vente, les immeubles.
Oh, excusez, oui.
Non, c'est parfait. C'est écrit, c'est ça qui est important. So, again, this is an unfortunate situation. It comes up every year. It is one of the mechanisms that the law provides for municipalities to make sure that it receives the dues that it is owed. So, do I have a proposer? Darren Legault, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 4.3, participation of the Town of Hudson in the regional study to optimize fire safety coverage on the Vaudreuil-Soulanges MRC territory. This is for an authorization. Whereas the Vaudreuil-Soulanges MRC has 23 municipalities covered by 16 fire departments and 22 fire stations, considering that out of a total of 523 firefighters, all ranks combined and for all fire departments, 14% are full-time, so 74, 41% are part-time, so 216, and 45% are volunteers, so 233. Whereas the phenomenon of labor force shortage and the lack of incentives to attract volunteer and part-time firefighters generate uncertainty about the ability to ensure replacement firefighters in the short, medium, and long term, whereas in full knowledge of the constraints and limitations for the years to come in terms of operational, organizational, economic, and logistical efficiency, it is wise to paint a true picture of the fire coverage on the MRC territory from all angles and to provide viable optimization scenarios with a view to sound and efficient management of resources and the sustainability of fire coverage on a regional and local level. Whereas there is a need for an independent study for an outside firm with experience in providing consulting services to regional and local authorities and with the necessary credibility to conduct said study for the purpose of developing variable scenarios. And whereas the town of Hudson is exempt from the costs associated with the study, this resolution is that the Council of the Town of Hudson agrees to participate in the Regional Fire Coverage Optimization Study Project at no cost, and that the Council authorizes the Vaudreuil-Soulanges MRC to submit the project within the framework of Volet 4 Soutien à la coopération intermunicipale of the Fonds Région et Ruralité, and that Council designates the Vaudreuil-Soulanges MRC as the organization responsible for the project. So you might have understood that this is a resolution prepared by the region that all municipalities will be adopting, and the MRC will be applying for a subsidy that will cover the costs of this report and study there. Therefore, there is no cost or no direct cost to the town of Hudson. En français.
Le point 4.3, participation de la Ville d'Hudson à l'étude régionale d'optimisation de la couverture en sécurité incendie sur le territoire de la MRC de Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Donc, c'est une autorisation. Le territoire de la MRC de Vaudreuil-Soulanges compte 23 municipalités couvertes par 16 services de sécurité incendie et réparties dans 22 casernes. Sur un effectif de 523 pompiers, tous rangs confondus et pour l'ensemble des services de sécurité incendie, 14 sont à temps plein, donc 74, 41 à temps partiel, ce qui représente 216, et 45 sont volontaires, ce qui représente 233 pompiers. Le phénomène de la pénurie de main-d'œuvre et le manque d'incitatifs ne favorisant pas le recrutement de pompiers volontaires et à temps partiel, générant une incertitude sur la capacité d'assurer une relève à court, moyen et long terme, qu'en étant en connaissance de cause des contraintes et des limitations pour les années à venir sur le plan de l'efficience opérationnelle, organisationnelle, économique et logistique, qu'il est justicieux de brosser un portrait réel et dans tous ses angles et sous tous ses angles de la couverture incendie sur le territoire de la MRC et de disposer de scénarios viables d'optimisation dans l'optique de viser une saine et efficiente gestion des ressources ainsi que la pérennité de la couverture incendie sur le plan régional et local. Le besoin d'une étude indépendante par une firme externe ayant l'expérience des services conseils auprès des autorités régionales et locales, disposant de la crédibilité nécessaire à la conduite de ladite étude aux fins du développement de scénarios viables. La Ville d'Hudson est exempte des coûts associés à l'étude. Donc, la présente résolution vise à ce que le Conseil de la Ville d'Hudson s'engage à participer au projet d'étude régionale d'optimisation de la couverture incendie et ce, sans coût. Le Conseil autorise la MRC de Vaudreuil-Soulanges à déposer le projet dans le cadre du volet 4, soutien à la coopération intermunicipale du Fonds Région et Ruralité. Et le Conseil nomme la MRC de Vaudreuil-Soulanges, organisme responsable du projet.
Merci. So do I have a proposer? Darren Legault, seconded by Benoît Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 4.4, support. This is a request to the Ministry of Health and Social Services to plan its projects in accordance with the principles of sustainable development, taking climate change into account and respecting its commitments in relation to the Vaudreuil-Soulanges Hospital parking lot. So again, this is another resolution adopted by multiple municipalities in the region, and you will understand through the reading of this resolution what it pertains to. Considering that violent climatic phenomena are more and more frequent, that the fight against climate change must be a priority, and that our actions must absolutely take into account environmental impacts. Considering that the earliest planning phases of the project, it was agreed by the partners involved that the parking lot for the future hospital would be tiered or underground in order to reduce urban heat islands and provide an infrastructure that respects the principles of sustainable development and it's adapted to climate change. Whereas the Quebec government and the Vaudreuil-Soulanges MRC have jointly endorsed the principles of eco-conditionality for the future Vaudreuil-Soulanges Hospital project, considering that the original plans show 1,869 parking spaces representing 5.7 hectares of paved area, or 23% of the land area, or equivalent of 5 soccer fields. Considering that the creation of a 5.7 hectare heat island is in direct contradiction to the objectives set by the government in the Politique nationale de l'aménagement et de l'architecture and the new preliminary government orientations in land use planning, considering that the development of a surface parking lot does not comply with the orientations of the MRC's Schéma d'aménagement et de développement révisé troisième génération, also called SADR3, which prioritizes sustainable parking development. This resolution is that the Town of Hudson support the Vaudreuil-Soulanges MRC and ask the government to respect its initial commitments with regards to the parking lot of the future Vaudreuil-Soulanges Hospital, namely the construction of a multi-level or underground parking lot, the whole in accordance with the sustainable development objectives announced by the former minister on February 1st of 2019, as well as with regional and municipal planning and regulatory documents.
Alors, le point 4.4, c'est un appui, demande au ministère de la Santé et des Services sociaux de planifier ses projets en respectant les principes de développement durable, en tenant compte des changements climatiques, en respectant ses engagements en lien avec le stationnement de l'hôpital de Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Alors, considérant que les phénomènes climatiques violents sont de plus en plus fréquents, que la lutte au changement climatique doit être la priorité et que nos actions doivent absolument tenir compte des impacts environnementaux, considérant que dès les premières phases de planification du projet, il avait été convenu entre les partenaires impliqués que le stationnement du futur centre hospitalier serait étagé ou souterrain, de manière à réduire les îlots de chaleur urbains et à prévoir une infrastructure respectant les principes de développement durable et adaptée au changement climatique. Considérant que le gouvernement du Québec a adhéré conjointement avec la MRC de Vaudreuil-Soulanges au principe d'éco-conditionnalité pour le projet du futur hôpital de Vaudreuil-Soulanges, considérant que les plans originaux illustrent 1869 cases de stationnement, ce qui représente 5,7 hectares de superficie pavée, soit 23 % de la superficie du terrain ou l'équivalent de 5 terrains de football. Considérant que la création d'un îlot de chaleur de 5,7 hectares va directement à l'encontre des objectifs que se donne le gouvernement dans la politique nationale de l'aménagement et de l'architecture et les nouvelles orientations préliminaires gouvernementales en aménagement du territoire, considérant que l'aménagement d'un stationnement de surface ne respecte pas les orientations du schéma d'aménagement et de développement révisé, troisième génération, SADR3, de la MRC, ce qui privilégie un aménagement de stationnement durable. Donc, la présente résolution vise à ce que la Ville de Hudson appuie la MRC de Vaudreuil-Soulanges et demande au gouvernement de respecter ses engagements initiaux concernant le stationnement du futur hôpital de Vaudreuil-Soulanges, à savoir la construction d'un stationnement étagé ou souterrain, le tout conformément aux objectifs de développement durable annoncés par l'ancienne ministre le 1er février 2019, de même qu'aux documents de planification et de réglementation régionaux et municipaux. et de réglementation régionaux et municipaux.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Yes. Benoit Blais, seconded by Peter Mate. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Section 5, Town Clerk, item 5.1. Here we are, signature authorization for the Legion transaction and lease. Now, the resolution is a lot longer than what I'm going to read. There is more of the history that is involved and identified. So I do encourage people, once these are published, not next month, but the following month, to take a look and to go through all the items here. So considering the exchanges and discussions between the Legion and the Town of Hudson, whereas the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 115 and the Town of Hudson have reached an agreement and found a solution in order to settle all litigation between them, this resolution is to ratify the transaction negotiated between the parties, to authorize the Mayor and the Director General to sign this transaction, and any document deemed necessary to give it effect, to annul Article 12 of the resolution adopted on November 7th of 1994, by which the Town of Hudson accepted the offer to purchase from the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 115, to ratify the proposed lease agreement negotiated between the parties, to authorize the Mayor and the Director General to sign the said proposed lease agreement, and any document deemed necessary to give it effect, to authorize a discontinuance without cost for the action for damages and the action for annulment. En français.
Alors, section 5, greffe, 5.1, autorisation de signature pour la transaction et le bail de la Légion. Alors, considérant les échanges et les pourparlers entre la Légion et la Ville d'Hudson, considérant que la Légion royale canadienne, section 115, et la Ville d'Hudson se sont entendus sur une solution concertée devant permettre de mettre fin aux litiges judiciaires entre elles, alors la présente résolution vise à entériner la transaction négociée entre les parties, d'autoriser la mairesse et le directeur et la directrice générale à signer cette transaction et tout document requis pour sa mise en œuvre, d'annuler l'article 12 de la résolution adoptée le 7 novembre 1994 par laquelle la Ville d'Hudson a accepté l'offre de vente de la Légion royale canadienne, section 115, d'entériner le projet de bail négocié entre les parties, d'autoriser la mairesse et la directrice générale à signer ce projet de bail et tout document requis pour sa mise en œuvre, d'autoriser un désistement sans frais dans la poursuite en dommages comme dans la poursuite en annulation.
Merci. Do I have a mover? So Darren Legault, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this
I
resolution?
would like a registered vote again.
So registered vote. District 1, how do you vote?
I'm against.
District 2, how do you vote?
I'm against.
District 3, how do you vote?
For.
District 4, how do
I'm
you
for.
vote? District 6, how do you vote?
I'm in favor.
So we have adopted by majority where it is 2 against and 3 for.
May I say why?
Yes, you may.
So in my case, I agree with the purpose of that contract and most of the text, but I've been trained for 40 years to sign, authorize, or approve only document that I have the complete document of it. And there's still few clauses where I do not have, I still need clarification, and I have not seen the supporting document. I will not vote for it.
District 1, Doug?
In conversation and quite candid with my co-counsellor for District 2, I'm in agreement with him that there are still some things that are not as clear as they should be in order to sign this.
Can you be more specific as to which ones?
No, not at the moment, thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much. The two presidents, so present and recent, are in the room, and I'd like to thank you for a very long year of negotiations, but we are, at least most of us, are very pleased with the outcome.
On behalf of the 500 or so members of the Legion, we're very grateful. We've been a partner with Town of Hudson for many years. And we hope to be partners with Hudson for many more years. And
Thank you very much, John Bazar. I appreciate it.
Alors, c'est un vote enregistré.
C'est un vote enregistré, donc carried by majority. It was carried by majority. It was 2 against and 3 for. C'est bon? Moving on to Section 8, Public Works. Item 8.1, awarding of contract AO-2023-16-TP, replacement of footbridges located on trails in a natural environment. Whereas 5 footbridges are located in the nature trails of Hudson and that they are all in a state of decay and need replacing. Whereas the public call for tender was issued on August 30th of 2023 and published on SEAO, whereas the bids received were opened publicly on September 25th of 2023. The following bids were received. So the first one from Parco Inc. for $401,090. The second, Indico Inc. for $496,692.54. Construction Verdure Inc. for $435,500. Considering the compliance analysis carried out, this resolution is to award to Parco Inc., lowest conforming bidder, the contract for replacement of footbridges located on trails in a natural environment for an amount of $401,090 before taxes.
Alors, la section 8, Travaux publics, 8.1, octroi de contrat AO-2023-16-TP, remplacement de passerelles situées sur des sentiers en milieu naturel. Alors, 5 passerelles sont situées dans les sentiers nature d'Hudson et elles sont toutes en état de délabrement et doivent être remplacées. L'appel d'offres public a été lancé le 30 août 2023 et publié sur SEAO. Les soumissions reçues ont été ouvertes publiquement le 25 septembre 2023. Les soumissions suivantes ont été reçues. Parco Incorporé pour $401 090. Hydro-CO Incorporé pour $496 602,54 sous. Construction Verdure Incorporée pour $435 500. En considérant l'analyse de conformité des soumissions, la présente résolution vise à octroyer à Parco Incorporé, plus bas soumissionnaire conforme, le contrat de remplacement de passerelles situées sur des sentiers en milieu naturel pour un montant de $401 090 avant taxe.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Darren Legault, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 8.2, we are now entering the 5 resolutions with regards to the work of the Circulation Committee. So item 8.2, road network, speed reduction measures for Cambridge Street. The request received from a resident of Cambridge Street suggesting that the town implement measures to reduce speeding on Cambridge Street, whereas the committee recommends the installation of an educational measure to raise awareness of the driver. This resolution is to authorize the request in part and to proceed with the purchase and installation of the 2 permanent speed indicators on Cambridge Street.
Alors, le point 8.2, réseau routier, mesures d'atténuation de vitesse rue Cambridge. La demande reçue par un résident de la rue Cambridge afin que la Ville mette en place des mesures pour réduire la vitesse sur Cambridge. Le comité recommande l'installation d'une mesure éducative pour sensibiliser les automobilistes. Alors, la présente résolution vise à accepter partiellement la demande et de procéder à l'achat et à l'installation de 2 radars pédagogiques permanents sur la rue Cambridge.
Merci. Do I have a mover? Reed Thompson, seconded by Benoit Blais. Are there any objections with this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 8.3, road network, installation of a restricted visibility sign on main roads. So this is pertaining to Zachary's request. The request received from a citizen who has a problem with his hidden driveway located at the bottom of a hill and a curve when driving west. The request is to install speed bumps combined with an educational radar as well as a convex mirror for users of their private accesses. Whereas the MTQ includes a sign for visibility problems as well as strict rules for its use in its best practices volume, volume meaning book. This resolution is to install a restricted visibility sign on the east side of Main Road near Civic number 185 and to reject the request for the installation of speed bumps and the convex mirror.
Alors, le point 8.3, réseau routier, installation d'un panneau de visibilité restreinte sur la rue Main. En considérant la requête reçue par un citoyen ayant une problématique due à son entrée cachée située en bas d'une côte et d'une courbe lorsqu'on circule vers l'ouest, considérant que la demande est d'installer des dos d'âne combinés à un radar pédagogique ainsi qu'à un miroir convexe pour les utilisateurs de leur accès privé, le MTQ prévoit un panneau pour les problèmes de visibilité ainsi que des règles strictes pour son utilisation. Alors, la présente résolution vise à procéder à l'installation d'un panneau de visibilité restreinte en direction est sur la rue Main, près du numéro civique 185, et de rejeter la demande pour l'installation de dos d'âne et de miroirs convexes.
Can I add just some additional information? On top of the restricted visibility sign, there's going to be a custom sign underneath that says there's a hidden driveway. So people will know to look out for it when they're driving up to your house.
Okay, so just so I understand, I don't think you make this like a
No,
whole
no.
discussion. I know there's some formality, but it's going to be a sign that says things?
Yeah.
So there will not be a meter, there's not going to be anything for the people coming out of the driveway?
No, we feel that the sign should be enough for drivers to slow down and be aware that there's a hidden driveway coming up, so it will encourage them to slow down.
So just to note for anybody who's calling, typically we will keep those to the question period, but anything that is not said directly into the microphone will not be recorded so people online don't hear your questions. I know for you it doesn't matter, but it might be frustrating for those who are watching online or who may be watching at a later date. And I'm getting from the person recording, I'm getting a few signs because when the Legion spoke earlier, of course, that didn't carry through. But yes. So it is moved by Reed Thompson, seconded by Benoit Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Benoit, est-ce que tu voulais rajouter quelque chose?
No, that's fine.
Item 8.4, road network, no parking zone, Mount Pleasant Street. So this is the topic that is very close to Benoit Blais' district. It is in District 2, literally a few steps away from where we both live, and has been an ongoing issue for years. And culminating with, as you've all said, there's an increased flow of traffic. There are many more cars. And also with COVID, parents got into the habit of driving the children to school rather than using the school bus. So that has amplified the problem as well. So 8.4, road network. Safety concerns have been raised about the school zone on Mount Pleasant Street. A meeting between the school board, the school representative, the town, and Sûreté Québec was held on September 6th of 2023. A pilot project was agreed upon by all parties to increase the safety in the school zone. It is proposed to install no parking signs on Mount Pleasant Street in the school zone to manage congestion between 7:30 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. and between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. This resolution is to proceed with the installation of no parking signs limiting the parking between those times, but to permit a waiting lane for the drop-off circle on the south side of Mount Pleasant Street in the east direction between the entrance of the school parking lot and the drop-off circle of the school, and to proceed with the installation of no stopping signs limiting the stopping between those times on the north side of Mount Pleasant Street in the west direction between 92 Mount Pleasant Street and 105 Mount Pleasant Street, and to proceed with the installation of no stopping signs limiting the stopping between those times on the south side of Mount Pleasant Street in the east direction between 105 Mount Pleasant Street and the entrance of the school parking lot, and to proceed with the installation of no stopping signs limiting the stopping between those times on the east and west side of Mount Pleasant Street in the north and south direction between 92 Mount Pleasant Street and 86 Mount Pleasant Street, to proceed with the installation of no stopping signs limiting stopping between those times on the east side of Bellerive Street in a northerly direction between 401 Bellerive and the intersection of Mount Pleasant Street, and to proceed with the installation of no stopping signs limiting the stopping between those times on the west side of Bellerive in the south direction between 404 Bellerive and the intersection of Mount Pleasant Street. It is a very complicated, but essentially asking parents to park further away so that when children are walking to school, they don't have double parked or parents with car doors. Anyway, it's a mess there in the morning and in the afternoons, and it gets worse on garbage pickup days and worse in the winter. I'm sure that Benoit can give us a long and detailed description of what that is like, but I invite anyone to walk there and witness it. Do not drive there and witness it, but it is a very particular situation. So we hope this will improve. We don't expect it will fix it and solve it. And we have been receiving an awful lot of emails from residents on Mount Pleasant, but also on Bellerive, as Bellerive is sort of a shortcut and a way around the school entrance. But it is used by the school buses, so it's a very complicated area. En français.
Alors, le point 8.4, réseau routier, zone d'interdiction de stationnement, rue Mount Pleasant. Alors, considérant que des préoccupations en matière de sécurité ont été soulevées concernant la zone scolaire de la rue Mount Pleasant, considérant qu'une rencontre entre la commission scolaire, le représentant de l'école, la Ville et la Sûreté du Québec a eu lieu le 6 septembre 2023, toutes les parties se sont mises d'accord sur un projet pilote visant à améliorer la sécurité dans la zone scolaire. Il est proposé d'installer des panneaux d'interdiction de stationnement sur la rue Mount Pleasant en zone scolaire pour gérer la congestion entre 7h30 et 8h30 et entre 14h et 15h. Donc, la présente résolution vise à procéder à l'installation des panneaux d'interdiction de stationnement, limitant le stationnement entre les heures mentionnées, mais de permettre une voie d'attente pour le débarcadère du côté sud de la rue Mount Pleasant en direction est, entre l'entrée du stationnement de l'école et le rond-point de débarquement de l'école. De procéder à l'installation de panneaux d'interdiction d'arrêt limitant l'arrêt entre les heures mentionnées du côté nord de la rue Mount Pleasant en direction ouest, entre le 92 de la rue Mount Pleasant et le 105 de la rue Mount Pleasant. De procéder à l'installation des panneaux d'interdiction d'arrêt limitant l'arrêt aux heures mentionnées du côté sud de la rue Mount Pleasant en direction est, entre le 105 rue Mount Pleasant et l'entrée du stationnement de l'école. De procéder à l'installation des panneaux d'arrêt limitant l'arrêt entre les heures mentionnées du côté est et ouest de la rue Mount Pleasant dans la direction nord et sud, entre le 92 et le 86 de la rue Mount Pleasant. De procéder à l'installation des panneaux d'interdiction d'arrêt limitant l'arrêt entre les heures mentionnées du côté est de la rue Bellerive en direction nord, entre le 401 Bellerive et l'intersection de la rue Mount Pleasant. Finalement, de procéder à l'installation des panneaux d'arrêt limitant l'arrêt entre les heures précisées du côté ouest de la rue Bellerive en direction sud, entre le 404 Bellerive et l'intersection de la rue Mount Pleasant.
Merci beaucoup. Do I have a proposer? Benoit Blais, seconded by Reed Thompson. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 8.5, Road Network, Speed Reduction Measures on Main Road. Since the completion of the paving between Bellevue and Quarry Point, there has been an increase of 5 kilometers per hour in the section of Main Road in proximity to the intersection with Bellevue. This increase of the V85 speed now requires education measures be used to better manage the speed of motorists. Whereas the radar unit is in the town inventory, this resolution is to proceed with the installation of one radar with a data recorder in order to respect our policy for education awareness measures. The radar will be installed at 170 Main Street on the north side of the street, heading west.
Le point 8.5, réseau routier, mesure d'atténuation de vitesse sur la rue Maine. En considérant que depuis l'achèvement du pavage entre la rue Bellevue et la rue Quarry Point, il y a eu une augmentation de 5 km dans cette section de la rue Maine à proximité de l'intersection avec Bellevue. Considérant que cette augmentation de la vitesse nécessite désormais des mesures éducatives pour mieux gérer la vitesse des automobilistes, considérant que l'unité radar est dans l'inventaire de la Ville, la présente résolution vise à procéder à la mise en place d'un radar pédagogique avec enregistreur afin de respecter notre politique sur les mesures de modération de la circulation. Le radar sera installé au 170 rue Maine, sur le côté nord de la rue en direction ouest.
Merci. Do I have a proposer? Reed Thompson, seconded by Benoit Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hands.
Just as a point of order, I had asked during their caucus if the owners at 170 had been advised that this would be erected at on their property.
No? I believe there already is a radar in that location.
Well, it's a portable unit.
I know, but there hasn't been any objections to it being there.
Unit.
No, at 170, it's a portable unit.
That the one they want to install is a fixed one.
Donc d'en faire le
Okay.
suivi.
But my question was,
No,
do
understood.
the owners of the property understand they're going to have a fixed unit at the end of, or at the entrance to their property?
Marie-Jacinthe is taking down your note. Would you like to object?
Sorry?
Are you objecting to the resolution?
No, I'm not. I just,
Okay.
I think that if something's going to be planted at the entrance or on somebody's property or on their border,
Well, it's
that-
the easement of the town, but we took down your note, and they will do a follow-up on it.
just as a courtesy, that's all I was saying, because I'm not sure I would want that there permanently, and out of courtesy for the homeowner, it might be just nice to say if they're in agreement with it. And if they're not, then, I don't know. Just as a courtesy, that's my
All right.
point.
So I understand there are no objections. It is carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 8.6, Road Network, Active Roads Zone for Kiltyvan. The town has received a request form for active roads on the public part of Kiltyvan Street, whereas that all eligibility criteria have been met. This resolution is to designate the section of Kiltyvan Street active roads for a period of 5 years and to proceed with the installation of active street signs on the public portion of Kiltyvan Street. En français.
8.6, réseau routier, zone de rue active, Kiltyvan. Alors, considérant que la Ville a reçu une demande pour l'implantation d'une zone désignée rue active concernant la rue Kiltyvan, considérant que tous les critères d'admissibilité sont atteints, la présente résolution vise à désigner la section de la rue Kiltyvan rue active pour une durée de 5 ans et de procéder à l'installation de panneaux pour rue active dans la partie publique de la rue Kiltyvan.
Merci. Proposer Reed Thompson, seconded by Benoit Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. It is carried unanimously. Moving on to Section 10, Bylaws, Item 10.1, Bylaw 526.16, amending zoning bylaw 526 to allow fireplaces in the front yard for commercial establishments. This is for the adoption of the second draft. Where the notice of motion of this bylaw was given at the regular sitting of the Municipal Council held on September 5th of 2023, whereas a public consultation meeting was duly convened and held on September 19th of 2023, whereas the first draft bylaw adopted on September 5th was amended as follows, where paragraph B of section 506 is amended to add subparagraph 10 as follows. Fireplaces and patio heaters are permitted for businesses located in the commercial zone. Wood fireplaces must be located at least 2 meters from the property line and from any building and must be equipped with a fire guard. Gas places, and patio heaters must be located at least 1 meter from the property line. This resolution is to adopt the second draft bylaw, 526.16, amending zoning bylaw 526 to allow fireplaces in the front yard for commercial establishments as amended.
10.1, adoption du second projet, le règlement 526.16 visant à modifier le règlement 526 sur le zonage afin d'autoriser les foyers en cours avant pour les établissements commerciaux. Alors, un avis de motion du présent règlement a été donné à la séance ordinaire du Conseil municipal tenue le 5 septembre 2023. Une assemblée de consultation publique a été dûment convoquée et a eu lieu le 19 septembre 2023. Le premier projet de règlement adopté le 5 septembre 2023 a été modifié de la façon suivante. Alors, le paragraphe A de l'article 506 est modifié pour permettre l'article se lit ainsi. Les foyers et les chauffe-terrasses sont permis pour les commerces situés en zone commerciale. Les foyers au bois doivent être situés à au moins 2 mètres des lignes de propriété et de tout bâtiment et doivent être munis d'un pare-étincelle. Les foyers au gaz et les chauffe-terrasses doivent être situés à au moins 1 mètre des lignes de propriété. Alors, la présente résolution vise à adopter le second projet de règlement 526.16 visant à modifier le règlement 526 sur le zonage afin d'autoriser les foyers en cours avant pour les établissements commerciaux tels que modifiés.
Merci. Donc, entre la version anglaise et française, on parle du paragraphe A et du paragraphe B. C'est la même chose dans le règlement. Donc, juste à faire la correction dans le règlement. I was just mentioning that between the French and the English, one says paragraph A, the other one says paragraph B. So that will be corrected. So essentially, one of the topics that came up in our deliberations at caucus was, is there actually the space in front yards of the commercial establishments to have a wood-burning fire if the setbacks required for safety from the fire department is 2 meters, and that has been validated. There is room. It may not be in the exact location where the fire pits are presently, but if they wanted to be closer than 2 meters, they could always switch to a gas fireplace. So it gives them that flexibility. There is another bylaw that accompanies this one with regards to, this is just for the placement and the type of fireplaces, whereas there is another bylaw that will come into play next month, and it controls the times and the days. So that is essentially how we're going to limit where wood burning or these fireplaces won't be able to be left on indeterminately or infinitely, and that there will be some protection or additional supervision required for open fireplaces. So this is how that goes. Pour la suite, peut-être juste expliquer, so this is a second draft. Whenever we change the zoning bylaw, it has a very particular allowance in the law where if there are any objections or resistance within the community, they can ask to sign a register. Donc peut-être juste l'expliquer en français, puis je le traduirai.
Alors, suite à l'adoption du second projet, il va y avoir un avis dans les journaux pour une demande de participation à un registre qui va viser les zones commerciales et les zones contiguës. Et l'annonce va se faire là, sous peu, suite à un certain nombre de demandes là, qui va être calculé avant la demande. Si on reçoit ces demandes-là au greffe, ça va demander l'ouverture d'un registre. Et à l'ouverture du registre, dépendamment des zones qui le demandent, c'est seulement que les zones qui ont demandé l'ouverture du registre là, à qui ça va s'adresser. Suite à l'ouverture du registre, on a une journée de 9h à 19h pour signer le registre, pour demander à ce qu'il y ait la tenue d'un référendum ou non.
So this is essentially the first steps for asking for a referendum. First, there's a public notice that goes up in the next few days that will give all the details and determine exactly how many signatures are required per zone to open a register. And it will say how many signatures are required as well in order to trigger then I guess the second step for this referendum. It is not often that the zoning change will go to that level. Typically, councils will then decide when they see that there is an objection whether they'll pull out the modification to a zoning. In this case, we don't anticipate that there will be much resistance, but we are aware that there are some people in the urban core who are signaling greater and greater respiratory issues and asking that we be considerate of health and quality of air. So I have heard them, we have discussed this, and at this time we are controlling it through distances and through which days and how long those fires can be burning. So, j'espère que ça a été assez clair. All good? All right, so I will need a mover. Darren Legault, seconded by Doug Smith. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Item 10.2, Bylaw 566.1-2023, amending Bylaw 566, imposing a tax to finance the 911 emergency centers. This is for adoption. This bylaw does not need to be preceded by a notice of motion. This bylaw must be adopted following the adoption by the government of the bylaw amending the bylaw governing the municipal tax for 911 coming into force on September 28th of 2023. I did not write that. This resolution is to adopt bylaw 566.1/2023, amending bylaw 566, imposing a tax to finance 911 emergency centers, and that bylaw 566.1-2023, amending bylaw 566, imposing a tax to finance 911 emergency centers, comes into force on the date of publication of a notice to this effect that the Minister of Municipal Affairs will cause to be published in the Gazette officielle du Québec. So this is something that I think every year, it's sort of their indexation of the fees. Madame McKercher?
Actuellement, avant, il n'y avait pas d'indexation. Donc, périodiquement, peut-être aux 4 ou 5 ans, le gouvernement demandait aux villes de modifier leur règlement pour la taxe qui finance le 911. Mais actuellement, dans le nouveau règlement qui nous a été demandé, une clause d'indexation qui va être intégrée au règlement, ce qui va éviter d'avoir à repasser d'autres règlements.
So rather than to have to adopt this annually or whenever they change the fees, this, by putting in that clause that refers it back to the Gazette officielle, essentially means that we are in keeping. Every time the Gazette changes, it means that our fee, our tax will change. I will need a mover. Darren Legault. En français, oui. Pardon, désolé.
À 10.2, adoption règlement 566.1-2023. Modifiant le règlement 566 décrétant l'imposition d'une taxe aux fins du financement des centres d'urgence 911. Alors, considérant que ce règlement n'a pas à être précédé d'un avis de motion, ce règlement doit être adopté suite à l'adoption par le gouvernement du règlement modifiant le règlement encadrant la taxe municipale pour le 911 entrant en vigueur le 28 septembre 2023. La présente résolution vise à adopter le règlement 566.1-2023 qui modifie le règlement 566 décrétant l'imposition d'une taxe aux fins du financement des centres d'urgence 911 et le règlement 566.1-2023 modifiant le règlement 566 décrétant l'imposition d'une taxe aux fins du financement des centres d'appel, des centres d'urgence 911 entre en vigueur à la date de la publication d'un avis à cet effet que la ministre des Affaires municipales fera publier à la Gazette officielle du Québec.
Merci beaucoup. So now I will take a mover. Darren Legault, seconded by Benoit Blais. Are there any objections to this resolution? Please raise your hand. There are none. It is carried unanimously. Are there any items in new business? Sometimes I skip over this one, so I'm trying to have better habits. No? This is the opening of the second question period. Please, if you're online, raise your hand or come to the microphone, and I will alternate between online and in the room. I'm expecting you to come back next month.
No. This is it. I'm exhausted. I'm not even sure this is a question you can answer, but since I'm here, I'm going to ask it anyways. My husband and my son are members of Hudson Badminton Club, and they're supposed to be playing Mondays and Wednesdays, but because of last week's events, the school has been closed. And I believe the chain of command, the request has to come from the badminton club, and then I think it goes to Franca, and then it goes to the school board. And the school board has said the school is off limits.
I know that they've just installed, this is Westwood Senior?
Yes.
They've just installed a new volleyball court, so maybe it's related to that, but Marie-Jacinthe will take this down. She's in communication with them to find out, and Franca as well as in town hall.
Yeah,
so.
the last we heard, I mean, obviously the school was closed last Wednesday, so there was no badminton. It was supposed to start last Wednesday. Then on Friday, my husband and my son got emails saying that the word had come from the school board that badminton was canceled. There's no badminton tonight, and it's canceled until further notice. And there was no, you know, if it was to paint the floor or something, they would say, so.
Is it indoors?
Yeah. It's in the new gym,
Okay.
yep. And I mean, they've been there for years. This is not anything new, but it's all very cryptic and just no badminton, so have no clue what's going on. So we don't know if, what.
Marie-Jacinthe, on a ses coordonnées, c'est la personne qui nous a envoyé les trois questions.
Yeah,
Si tu peux juste faire un suivi.
Yeah, you want my...
received your email today, so I'll ask to Westwood Senior what's happening.
Okay.
Ton micro, il faut l'allumer.
We received your email today, so I'll ask to Westwood Senior what's happening, and I'll get back to you.
That would be great. Yeah, they're disappointed, you know, so.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, fair. Thank you. Are there any questions online? I see no hands up. Yeah, come ahead. Hi, Helen.
Hi, Helen Kurganski, Hudson, Goy Point. I'm very happy that the town looked for and found solutions to resolve the litigation between the Legion and the town. I'm very grateful that that's been done. I just want to understand there are objections from two councillors, and if I understand correctly, they didn't see all the documents, or there were things that were missing, and then you're voting tonight. I just like an explanation, please, of what happened.
Can I answer?
Yeah.
So the annex were not attached to the document, and there's few clauses in my mind that still need clarification, and that's why I voted no.
Because in principle...
The principle and the idea and the concept is good.
Yeah, that's what I'd understood that this would...
It's just we're signing a document for 90 years. Let's do it right.
Okay, I just...
Les annexes, Madame Kircher, il y avait des photos dans une des annexes. Pouvez-vous décrire les annexes?
Les annexes avaient été fournies, étaient tous dans le SharePoint du caucus. Ils n'étaient peut-être pas attachés encore parce qu'on n'était pas à la finalisation du document. Alors, c'était quand même beaucoup de travail à tout assembler. Mais les photos, c'était principalement des photos là, de l'équipement.
Oui, je me souviens des photos.
Là, les,
So the elements were just not collated together. They were separate, but there were, Benoit had presented several questions, and there were some that were actually integrated into the final documents, and others, je ne sais pas si vous avez eu la chance de lui parler aujourd'hui puis d'expliquer. No?
Non, par contre, j'ai...
So the lawyer who was working on the agreement with our Director General for over a year went through the list and had written out the reason why those were not integrated. So sometimes it's like the town does not need to stipulate that it was constituted by la loi des cités et villes, or that is already carried but in a separate document, or that has already, it's part of the civil code. Like each one of them actually already is covered by something else and does not need to be stipulated. So the lawyer had actually gone through the whole list and explained why those were not integrated. So we chose to go ahead.
Considering it's really a long-term agreement, and it would be nice to, anyway. Okay, so thank you for that.
But we had all the information, right? That's the point, and the homework was done, but obviously not to the same level of finite detail. But we do have, and I think, a very good expert on the matter, possibly not of banking caliber, but certainly excellent for our purposes.
I have two other questions from tonight's
Yeah,
meeting,
please,
if
go
I
ahead.
may, or if there's other people have other questions, I don't want to hog the.
No, go ahead. There's no one on,
Okay,
unless there's others in the room that want to come up. You can wait, okay.
Okay, the footbridges, I'm also happy you're fixing that. It's really been an accident waiting to happen. They've been rotting progressively for quite a few years. I just want to know how, for the amount of money that we're spending, the 400 and something thousand, how many and where are they situated, these footbridges?
I believe it's 5 footbridges. So there's the bridge over the Vivry just past the community center. There is the McNaughton footbridge. There's a footbridge along Bradbury Trail. And the other two, do you remember? So the reason they're pricier than you would expect is because it's a steel or aluminum, anyway, it's a metal structure, and there will be a wood topping, a platelage on top. And these will be built during the winter and installed in the spring. So it is a durable structure where all we then have to change, we don't have to go and change any beams. It's, you know, much more lasting in those humid conditions. But yeah, off the top of my head, I can't remember where the 5 are, but those are the 3 I have in mind.
Is that going to be listed when we see the, you know, the final report and the voting? Is it listed like the, you know?
No.
No?
It's not listed.
No.
Dans la résolution, hein?
No, it just would be.
Dans la résolution, no.
No.
But we could get back to that.
That would be great, thank you. And my last question is the financial statements, they only go from September 1st to September 22nd? Normally, like, we have the months, and none of the salaries are listed for the month?
So there's one set of salaries?
I didn't see any, anyway, in the report that I have here, I didn't.
Veux-tu expliquer, Marie-Jacques?
Yeah, so it's just that, you know, in the reporting, I just wanted to know why we only have the first 3 weeks. Is there a reason?
It's related, I believe, to our HR personnel who usually takes care of this, who was away on holiday, but Marie-Jacinthe will explain this better than me.
En fait, la paye 18 est celle qui apparaît présentement.
Oh, OK, j'ai...
Oh.
Ça n'a pas été... J'ai cherché une couple de fois.
C'est pas dans la liste des chèques.
Non, c'est ça.
Ce qu'elle veut dire.
En réalité, il y a effectivement 2 payes qui ont été versées.
Oui.
Simplement, ça n'a pas été versé dans le logiciel comptable. Il y a un logiciel de paye, logiciel comptable, au moment, en fait, où on a sorti l'information.
OK.
Et donc, il y a 3 payes qui vont apparaître le mois prochain, mais une, en fait, qui était de cette période-là, mais qui n'a tout simplement pas été inscrite.
OK. J'ai pas vu aucune, par exemple, qui a été inscrite, même le
That's
premier.
what she just explained.
Okay.
So next month, you will see 3, but one of them actually has been paid this month and is included in the resolution, even though it's not in the list of disbursements.
Et pourquoi est-ce que le mois fiscal a fini au 22 septembre?
Bonne question. Ça, je vais vous revenir, en fait. Pourquoi le 22 précisément? Je vais vous revenir.
Okay,
Très bonne question.
Merci.
Thank you, Helen. Oh, yeah. I'll take Caroline Mills.
Go for it.
Sorry, Zach. Go ahead, Caroline.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much. I just wanted to piggyback on Helen's comment with regards to the trails, and I'm wondering if I can trouble you to please let me know if Davidson is also included on that list.
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think that Davidson is included in the list. I have a feeling that it's mostly Bradbury, but we'll check in what they are, and I'll certainly have that precision for the next council meeting and send to you. I have both of your emails, so I can send it to both of you.
Thank you.
Davidson? But are you talking about from the empty lot to the trails? Is that what you mean by the footbridge at Davidson? The
Yes,
access.
that's correct.
Yeah, the access.
The access off of Como Gardens onto Davidson.
Yeah.
And it obviously doesn't allow for, nor do I know what the responsibilities are for our crews in terms of cleanup. I mean, they've been phenomenal this year in terms of keeping the path or sentier, if you will, open between Hemlock and Como Gardens. There are an awful lot of people who use that shortcut. you know, Hudson being, especially over here, just a network of a lot of cul-de-sac, a lot of dead ends. So it is one way to get back to Main Road. And the lawn maintenance crews have been phenomenal in keeping that open. There's an awful lot of the poison parsnip that encroaches onto the trail, and therefore certainly a lot of moms with their strollers, with little ones who are always throwing their arms out from the strollers to grab what they can. It had been an issue in the past. It was rectified, and I had sent a message to Gaétan Gingras to thank him for the work that they've done on that. Davidson, it would be awfully nice if there was a way to get a crew in there that just open up the access from beyond the footbridge just to where it opens up into, I guess, a three-point access. That, again, that's an awful lot of encroachment in the summertime. You almost need a machete to get yourself just through the 50 feet.
Je te l'expliquerai. Thank you very much, Caroline. I know what you mean. I was there this morning. Yeah. Thank you. Zachary.
I actually had a couple of follow-up questions regarding the answers that we got in points, well, 8.2 and 8.4, sorry, 8.5. Just a couple of little follow-up questions. First one being, so right now there's like a temporary speedometer. I don't know what to call it, but I guess it's a radar. Thank you. Going westbound, correct? I always mix up my west. On Main.
On Main.
At 170.
At 170, correct. So my first question is, does that capture data in that? So it captures data, and with that data, you guys can do an analysis and see what the average speed has been on Main.
Correct.
During the time it's been there. So you had mentioned 5 kilometers an hour. So am I to understand that the average speed has been 45 kilometers an hour on Main Street?
It's been between 45 and 49 kilometers an hour, which falls into what we would call the educational threshold. So
right.
the town would implement educational means on controlling the speeding.
Okay, and I know we're getting into the technicalities of things, but like what kind of breakdowns do you get? Like, because obviously when people see a speedometer, they tend to slow down, right? Quite quickly to try and match the speed of whatever speed it's at. But do you have what they were, what they were going at, 200-300 yards back? Or I mean, I know it's a very finite detail, but. Or do you just get numbers, basically?
We just get numbers. Basically, okay, when people are coming up on the sign and when you start seeing a speed, that's when it's recording your speed.
Right, understood.
Yeah.
Okay, next question, last question. Now that's going westbound, obviously, which is a direction on Main Street, which is important. Are you guys doing anything for eastbound?
I'm not sure yet. Let me get back to you.
Yeah, because it's as bad in both directions, and I'm just saying it because I'm here, and I don't I think you guys are already sick and tired of hearing about this topic, but it's as bad coming in the other direction. If anything, that hill is probably even more dangerous because people come speeding over that hill, whereas if you're going westbound on Main, if you're pulling out of a driveway, you can see the people going westbound, whereas if you're pulling out, you can't see the people coming from the left going eastbound. So,
no, good point.
Yeah, so I'm just raising it with you guys.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? I see none online. Helen, come ahead.
Just one last question. Is there, for signage, for the look and feel of the signage, is there any work being done to try to give a direction and guidelines going forward?
So we will be starting la refonte des règlements d'urbanisme. So the bylaw revisions will be starting in a couple of months, I hope. We will be starting with a workshop, more for the center of the core, but that could be the type of comments on signage that comes up. I need to put together a proposal as well to start the thinking on where we would want to go and how much do we want to shape it, because it slows down the process. As you know, as soon as a file goes to TPAC, it basically extends it by 2 months. Is there not a better way to, for example, for multi-tenants, it's much simpler if there is a look and feel that has been pre-approved, and then when they change their tenants, they don't have to come back. They just, you know, use the same. Fairleys is a good example with J. Corr's building where they have that and they just change those smaller signs. With regards to individual signs, I need to do some homework, but ideally it would be accompanied by a consultant so that we can get the best practices for towns our size and with our character. Maybe look at Saint-Sauveur or other places and see how far do we go in order to control it, or is it just a size and a general materiality? Because at this point, as we know, it's creating, yes, a slowdown, but it's also open to interpretation, which is fine. But at some point, I think that commerces are short-lived, often short-lived, and need to have as much flexibility as possible to identify themselves and to be seen, right, within reason. I know that Hudson up until now had been controlling backlit signs. They didn't want neons or that kind of look and feel to creep in, which is where the goosenecks came into play. I think that's something we would probably continue to hold. Also, there is an attachment to sort of more traditional signs, you know, the ovals or a wood grain or that, but it is a hindrance to merchants who may have a more modern, fresher feel. So those are works that we'll have to work on. I've brought this topic to TPAC and asked if there was an interest on the part of TPAC to look into this. At this time, there's a group of 3 or 4 within TPAC who are interested in looking at street signage, because that, as you probably remember, is one of the elements that we need to be conforming to l'Office de la langue française and adding rue. And at this time, it would probably be both languages that would be added, but there isn't room on our existing signs to just add a tag, so we'd have to redo that, and also standardizing the fonts. So there's a group of 3 or 4 on TPAC who are interested in spending time on that, and I think that from there, then the signs for commercial signs will come into play.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There are no questions online, so I will move to section 12, adjournment of the meeting. I will need a mover, Reed Thompson, and a seconder, Doug Smith, that the meeting be adjourned at 9:20 p.m. en français.
Alors, la levée de la séance. Alors, la présente résolution vise à lever la séance à 21h20.
And are there any objections to this resolution? No? It is carried unanimously. Merci, Madame McKercher. Merci infiniment pour tout votre travail sur le dossier de la Légion. Vraiment, ça a été ardu. Je vous apprécie énormément. Merci, Marie-Jacinthe, pour votre travail.
Parfait, mais bon.